Test. Here we go. Okay, let's see. I know I've mentioned walking before. It's something that really helps me clear my mind and think of answers to questions I have, like what the hell is going on, things like that. I live in a town that's in the mountains, and so, you know, it's not, everything isn't like a mountain climb, but there are a lot of hills around here, I'll say. And there's a pretty long hill behind my house. It's not super steep, but it's long. I was walking up this hill this morning, and I was reminded of a couple weeks ago when I was coming home from the surgeon's office. I had this thing called avascular necrosis, which basically means that the circulation to the end of the bone, in this case the hip bone, gets cut off for some reason or another, and the bone starts to turn into powder, from what I'm told. So I walked around with this condition for like 10 years, and I tried my best to keep it under control, and I walked around, and it's changed it from like a really sharp pain to a dull ache. The dull ache was a little bit better than the sharp pain. But walking up that hill behind my house, it used to hurt, man. It was like, ugh, and then it was just like final stretch, right? And I'd suffer through it. And so I was just thinking about this surgery, of course, as I'm walking up that hill today. I had this scar, right? And I just got finished looking at this scar with the surgeon. You know, for the first couple weeks, it was bandaged up, and then I went back and they put a different bandage on it. And then, so I didn't really see the incision for a while. I saw it briefly when they took the staples out, but I was trying not to look at it too much. But then a couple weeks later, the bandage came off. So then I saw it, and it was a big purpley pink scar about 8 inches long that runs from my pelvis down my leg a little bit. I'll spare you the gory details. I don't want to freak anybody out too much, but let's just say they're not too gentle on you when they do this surgery. You can look it up if you want to. It's probably not a pretty sight. I was asleep the whole time. So anyway, I got this big hot pink scar on my leg, looking down at it, and it's a little bit itchy. It's still a little bit bruised up, and it's really fresh, you know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be there for a while. It made me think of when I first moved to this town, Asheville, about 15 years ago. I've been saying 15 years for 3 years, I'm pretty sure. So let's call it between 13 and 18 years ago, because I have no recollection of most of my life. When I first moved up here, I had this big, hot pink, jagged scar on my chin, from the front of my chin, kind of riding the bottom of my jawbone on the front of my face. Very noticeable scar. And I got that scar from one night when I got home from work after drinking beer all day. Someone gave me a Xanax, and I think I chased it down with some whiskey, and then as soon as I got home, that was it. That was all I remember. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in bed, and I just noticed that my face was stuck to the pillow. So I walked into the bathroom first, and I saw that my face was ripped open. And what had happened was I had fallen up the stairs. I mean, you gotta be a really lucky person. Let me try to explain this scene. So you walk in the front door, you walk up 4 or 5 carpeted stairs, and then you're in the kitchen, right? And in the kitchen, there is a bar. And the bar is not one of those nice, safe, rounded corner bars. It's one of those nice, pointy-cornered, linoleum, plastic, super sharp bars. So if somebody were to hypothetically drink a bunch of whiskey after drinking a bunch of beer pretty much all day from 9 a.m. and then eating a Xanax sometime around in the middle of there, and then come home, walk in the front door, try to get up the stairs, but instead fall up the stairs, and then say they smacked their chin on the bar and knocked themselves out, which is what happened to me. I think I laid there for a while. You know, when I saw my face in the mirror, it kind of came back to me a little bit in flashes. Like, I fell up the stairs and I hit that button, the button that Mike Tyson hit, you know what I mean? Like, I was out. I got knocked the F out. Yeah, that was one of the last ridiculously shameful, stupid ass things that I did that was major, that ended with me having a big ass scar on my face, and I probably could have died, etc., etc. Like, that was really the one that sticks out in my mind, is when, you know, it's time now. It's time to think about maybe getting it together a little bit. Let's just say that it was a really dark point of my life, as you could probably tell by the story that I just told you. I moved up here, hot pink star on my face. I just said that I was snorkeling, and I saved a school of dolphins from getting run over by a boat, and I got my face slashed open by a motor. And the story was so ridiculous that nobody ever really asked to follow up. They just kind of went, and they laughed because they knew I was kidding, but I think they also kind of picked up I didn't want to talk about it. So I was sober for the first 6 months, started drinking again for a few years, which might be another story. But finally, 10 years ago, I quit. Falling up a flight of stairs and slicing my face open was not the most embarrassing thing that had happened to me. It was one of the last most embarrassing things that happened to me, but it's not the only thing to be ashamed about from all those years of drinking. So I had all this stuff, you know, I had all these memories that were kind of coming back. I had all these relationships that I had messed up. Really, my life just became this, I don't know, maybe this haze of this shame. It was scars, you know, it was basically just scars in my brain, scars of memories, scars where my potential had been cut out. Well, I hadn't thought about it in a long time, and that was probably what reminded me. That's what hit me so profoundly, was that I'm driving home, I'm looking at this scar on my hip, and it reminded me, oh yeah, I have this scar on my face. And the reason why I don't even think about it that much anymore is because I'm not exactly clean shaven, but it's under there. I'm touching it right now. It's nothing compared to what it was. I'm sure I could find some pictures of it all swelled up and weird, but I hadn't thought about it in a long time. And then I just got this twinge. I got this twinge of, oh my God. It's like when you think back on something that you did that was just so, I guess cringe is what the kids are calling it today, but this seems like that word doesn't quite encapsulate what it is. I mean, I put this surgery off for 10 years. I knew that I needed a new hip when I first got diagnosed with this thing, and I walked around and tried to manage the pain for 10 years. I was scared. I'd never had any kind of surgery before. I'd never gotten an IV. I'd never gotten any kind of anesthetic to be put to sleep or anything like that. The whole thing freaked me out. They rolled me into the room. It was just like a episode of ER, right? Like everybody's moving fast. They're moving around real fast. There's bright lights. I'm looking up at them. And I'm wondering when they're going to tell me to count down from 10, right? Because that's they do in the movies. And then I was looking at the ceiling, and then I just woke up looking at a different ceiling, and it was over. The surgery part was over. The recovery was just beginning, and I had to go to physical therapy, and I couldn't walk at first without a walker. Then I went to a cane, went to walking on my own, and I was in a lot of pain all the time, and et cetera, et cetera. But I did it. I did something that I was like more scared of than I've ever been. And I mean, I remember when I needed to quit drinking, how scared I was to do that too. I have a metal hip in my body now. It's like the strongest part of my body now. I mean, that hill behind my house, that was the benchmark. That was the benchmark. When I could make it up the hill behind my house, this is months later, when I'm walking up that hill. And I didn't just walk up that hill, man. I flew up that hill, and I kept walking,